Well, my next guest says the president and Speaker of the House used threats and intimidation to strong-arm the House Democrats into voting for a massive government takeover of health care. He also says that Republicans have introduced dozens of health care reform bills but have been completely shut out by the Democratic majority. Please welcome a dear friend and the author of the Fair Tax book, Georgia Congressman John Linder. Congressman, you are loved here, as is Paula Dean. You know, we get all these great Georgia people on the show since we're coming to from Atlanta. But you were there last Saturday night in what I call Nancy Pelosi's version of Saturday Night Fever, as she danced down the aisles of the House to celebrate the passage of really what does amount to a just staggeringly costly health care bill.
Yeah, and they underestimated its cost by about $500 billion.
Wow. By
just ignoring expenses that we know we're going to have to cover. 85% of America likes their health care. And we're going to spend $2 trillion a year to make them unhappy? If we have a real serious uninsured problem, it's about 12 million people. You could insure them for less than we're spending. This is, I've said many times, this has less to do with health care than control. That's what it's all about.
And I think that's an interesting point. It's not just the control of business, that's bad enough, but this is the control of people's personal health care decisions that would potentially dictate where they went to the doctor, how much the doctor could do or not do to help them. We hear we're not going to be rationed, but you and I both know that the way the government can always ration is to say they're going to cover something but reduce the reimbursement so that effectively nobody's going to provide it.
That's correct, and we have many nations that have tried a government-run healthcare system, and 100% of them have come down to just what you said. They're going to ration care, people are going to die early, and it's the seniors that are going to get hit the most.
One of the things that I think was intriguing to watch this tactic that the Democrats were using last week, Nancy Pelosi clearly had her knee in the back of some of your colleagues in the House. Did any of them, and I'm not asking you for names, but did any of them privately express their frustration as maybe conservative to moderate Democrats who were pushed, or really just badgered into voting?
Yes, and the reason they put the abortion amendment on the floor was they pick up the 5 to 6 additional votes on the bill, whether or not it passed, and get the bill passed. They would do anything to get it passed. But many, many of the moderate to conservative Democrats were very concerned about this process and are very concerned with what it's going to do to their party.
Now we're hearing that this bill, when it gets to the Senate, is dead on arrival. Both Democrats and Republicans are saying that. If the Senate passes their version of the bill, what happens to it in the House?
It won't pass the House.
So you've got two very divergent bills. Neither one can pass the other.
The Senate wants to raise the money for theirs by taxing Cadillac insurance plans. Quote, well, guess who has them? Labor unions. And the House doesn't want to tax labor unions. What they do want to do is give $10 billion of your money to the labor unions to shore up their health care plans and to leave them separate from this. But the Senate bill can't pass the House, and vice versa.
When we think about the enormous cost, that I think may not fully register to the average voter. Tell me why this cost ought to be of great concern to us when we're talking about trillions of dollars of new government expenditure.
We can't pay for it. We're broke. We're going to be out of money within 31 years. But the entire federal revenue stream will not be sufficient to just pay the interest on the debt. And that was before Obama was elected, and added trillions more to it. In addition to what we're spending, the Federal Reserve has guaranteed about $4.3 trillion of other debt. We are praying that China and India and Japan will continue to buy our debt, because the only other way to pay this debt is to inflate it, to cause inflation and pay it off with cheaper dollars. In my view, we're looking at hyperinflation, and there's no way around it. Just last week, when gold hit $1,100 or $1,200 an ounce, India bought about 4 tons of it. And the gold in this country, and all countries, is diminishing. And so it's going to be very expensive. Our dollar is getting weaker, and we're going to have to inflate our way out of this, and that means hyperinflation.
Why do you think that the leadership right now of the House and the White House are so intent on pushing both the health care bill,
cap and trade,
these are all expensive, business-killing, job-killing proposals. What's the deal?
I think that this administration came into office wanting to move dramatically to the left with more government control over of our lives. And they know that once you pass something, we never repeal it.
Congressman, I want to say thanks not only for being here, but I also want to say thanks for your support of the fair tax, which I believe is the economic stimulus that this country needs. And let me just say to you, if you are not familiar with the tenets of the fair tax, you need to get the book called The Fair Tax Book that Congressman Linder co-wrote with a dear friend, Neil Bortz, who lives right here in Atlanta. This book would help you to fully understand what we could be doing that would bring jobs and economic stimulus to America. Well, speaking of books, we're going to find out which book our audience members picked as a Christmas present for their chosen celebrity. We'll be right back.